Do you want your pickup truck to look like this?
Whoa, yeah!
Well, that's too bad we're not gonna make that. And would you like to go 500 miles without having to stop at a gas station?
Yeah.
Well, that's too bad because we're gonna have a gas range extender option because trying to get that many batteries into a pickup truck is just kind of crazy.
That's kind of the whole point of making an electric truck, right? Is because we don't want to have to go to the gas station.
Alright then, we're gonna stuff our truck full of batteries so you can go 500 miles on a single charge.
Okay. How much is this gonna cost?
No comment.
Okay, great, fine.
At first glance of these specs, it is quite horrifying to think about, right? Like, the Hummer EV, which I've ridiculed endlessly for being such a giant, inefficient behemoth, having a 215 kilowatt-hour battery pack, and then Stellantis comes out here with the Ram 1500 saying this is actually gonna have an even larger battery pack at 229 kilowatt-hours. My god, they did not disclose the curb weight, but this thing is gonna be freaking heavy. I'm sure the Hummer has some excess weight just because it's a very large, big vehicle, kind of inefficient by design. You know, the Hummer has 3 motors and the 1500 just has 2, and it doesn't seem like it's gonna have as much crazy off-roading capability or as big a tires as the Hummer does, perhaps, but actually getting the numbers from them now about the battery pack capacities they're targeting, I gotta admit, this actually seems a little bit too good to be true. And yeah, there's still no pricing, which is where the real kicker is likely going to be. The biggest problem, I think, with manufacturing vehicles with battery packs that large isn't necessarily the inefficiencies, but it's the complexity of scaling production and how do you price these things without losing money on them. That's just going to cost so much to build that it's likely got to be over $150,000 to be profitable, but knowing Ram, they'll probably sell it at a loss just so they have good street credibility, which is good for us consumers, but also means not that many people are going to be able to get a hold of them, and that means if there's low supply, high demand, dealer markups are probably going to ruin it. But if we're just looking at the efficiency numbers here, with a battery pack a little bit bigger than a Hummer, the Ram 1500 is getting range vastly better than that of the Hummer. The main reason I ridicule the Hummer so much is it's barely getting over 300 miles on a charge, and it's using over 200 kilowatt hours to achieve that. Ram, at least, is targeting 500 miles of range with this pickup truck, and achieving that with 229 kilowatt hours, which, given the fairly basic, you know, very F-150 looking shape, that's actually kind of impressive to me. Like, first of all, I was already upset that the Revolution concept truck didn't really keep its design language over to this thing. I feel like Ram basically just went the, okay, let's do the F-150 Lightning route and just put slightly different light bar on our truck. Same frunk as the Lightning, same bed as the Lightning, seems like the same seating layout as the Lightning, and my god, that interior looks horrible to me. I apologize if you're the kind of guy that loves having buttons and dials and everything, but to me, this just looks like the TV remote of car interiors. Buttons everywhere! It's literally like a D-pad on the car itself. I thought touchscreens kind of killed the need to have a D-pad on our steering wheels, but estimating a 229 kilowatt hour pack getting 500 miles of range on a charge, that means that you're still getting over 2 miles per kilowatt hour, which, in case you haven't been following electric pickup trucks lately, that's roughly the same efficiency that Rivian and Ford are getting with their electric trucks, but it just happens to pack like twice the battery capacity. So I'm actually really curious how they're achieving this, to be honest, because just looking at the design, I can tell they're not gaining a lot of benefits from aerodynamics. You still got the stupid little dorsal fin on the top, you still got this big L cut in the top, and it's very similar aerodynamically to an F-150 Lightning, to be honest. They did say they're gonna have the front motor decouple at highway speeds for better efficiency. Normally, when EVs do that, though, they usually disconnect the rear motor, though I'm guessing because it's a pickup truck, it made more sense to just keep it in rear-wheel drive, since it's probably gonna be towing or having a big payload in the bed. But yeah, decoupling one of the motors definitely helps with efficiency at highway speed, and yes, they did say this is an 800-volt architecture, which, thank God, that allows them to DC fast charge it at 350 kilowatts, but when we're talking a battery pack at 229 kilowatt hours, honestly, 350 kilowatt kilowatts is not that impressive. When you translate 350 kilowatts on a vehicle as inefficient as the Ram, that roughly translates to like 700, 800 miles per hour, so it's technically charging slower than like a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y does, which those can hit 1,000 miles an hour because they're much more efficient. But just the fact that they're able to maintain the energy consumption of an F-150 Lightning and also have like twice the battery pack on the inside to hit that 500 mile mark, yeah, that's like fishy, like spooky efficient. I know it's not through aero, so it must be coming down to the powertrain. I can't even really say it must be thanks to weight savings, because obviously battery pack is the heaviest part of the vehicle, and this has got a battery pack like twice the size of a Lightning or a Rivian, so it's not gonna be lighter than those guys. If anything, this is likely to be another one of those 9,000 pound pickup trucks on the road. So I suppose the real only answer to this is they've just got an incredibly efficient powertrain, which is impressive. And even though it appears very inefficient because the aero sucks and the battery pack is bigger than pretty much any other consumer grade vehicle we've seen, I'm impressed by those figures. And if anything, I'm a little bit skeptical. Like, I'm curious if the EPA test would result in a different range estimate. But that's the thing, because it's so heavy, it's over a certain weight limit. Similar to the Hummer EV, this likely doesn't need to take the EPA test, which means we can't get an official EPA estimated range. We just get essentially what Ram tells us the range is, which is 500. And while a lot of you guys are probably quick to judge this and say this is terrible, and you know, I'm the Aptera fanboy, so you may think that I would be the guy against this type of thing, but honestly, I think if their mindset is tackling the towing demographic, like people that are towing great distances across country and they want to do it with an all-electric vehicle, the aerodynamics probably isn't going to matter that much to the towing demographic, because people have all different kinds of shaped trailers and are towing all kinds of random things. That's going to eat into your aerodynamics a lot and throw off any kind of efficiency gains that you would have from a Model Y or a Cybertruck. You know, those are much more aerodynamic vehicles, but once you hook up a bizarrely shaped trailer to it, which I'm in favor of there being more aerodynamic trailers, but for certain workflows and for certain customers out there, it's just not an option, depending on if you're towing other vehicles or if you're towing like a bulldozer or if you're towing a horse trailer and those kinds of things. There's not really a great way to make a lot of trailers, if they're hauling mulch or hauling produce and that kind of thing, aerodynamic. So to that demographic, the aerodynamics of the pickup truck itself isn't really going to enable that much benefits. So that's why I'm kind of willing to excuse the dated design here. And of course, lots of you are probably thinking we don't even need 500 miles of range because people are going to have to stop anyway. Well, again, if we just look at this as a electric pickup truck that is primarily targeting the towing audience, that range is likely getting cut in half or even more so to like 250 miles or 200 miles on a single charge. And if you're towing around unaerodynamic trailers that don't have their own battery packs and powertrains on the inside of them, like most of them don't, then there's really no other way to get decent range out of a pickup truck with that design language other than stuffing an incredibly massive battery pack in it. And while I don't think that's an incredibly large market, I don't think most pickup truck buyers are actually towing really big payloads on long distances. I do acknowledge that the market exists, and because this battery pack is so massive, I do think that they're going to price it accordingly. So don't worry about this thing outselling the Lightning or the Rivian, because honestly, it's probably going to cost well over $100,000 for that option. And they did also mention they're planning like a 350 mile range variant, which has like a 160 kilowatt hour battery pack, which is still quite massive, to be honest, but I'm sure that one will be a bit cheaper and likely the one that you see available at most dealerships. But because they're using such massive battery packs and because Ram is still so early in this EV transition, I imagine this vehicle is not going to scale up production very fast, similar to the Hummer EV. You know, it's been in production for a while, but GM was only able to deliver 2 last quarter because these things are just so inefficient to build. So I hope the narrative here isn't all the Ram guys thinking that, oh, this means Ram has some magic secret sauce that allows them to beat out the range of all of their competitors, because really there's no way around this. It's just physics. They gotta be stuffing massive battery packs that are hopefully very energy dense in this thing so that the weight is not worse than a Hummer EV. If anything, I think it's pretty darn close, but I think the pricing of it is likely going to keep this a fairly niche vehicle. It's just for people that have more than $100,000 to drop on their pickup truck that want to do cross-country towing, and even then, as far as I can tell, Ram is not building out their own charging network, so that means you're going to be stopping looking at Electrify America or Tesla superchargers, which are not necessarily going to be maxing out at the 350 kilowatts. You're going to have to disconnect your trailer based on where the charge port is located also. So I still only think that the range argument for long distance towing is one part of the equation. It's like, okay, yes, we can make a very heavy, very inefficient pickup truck with range that's still decent when towing, but then how do you match that with a charging network that is optimized for plugging in and having a trailer there, because most DC fast charging stations are not laid out in the same way gas stations are. So I still think it's going to be difficult. I still think it's going to be kind of annoying compared to long distance towing with a gas pickup truck, but I will acknowledge I can see a market for this, and if the range numbers and battery pack numbers are accurate, I'm honestly kind of impressed with the relative efficiency. Obviously, yeah, compared to a crossover or a sedan, this thing is nowhere near that efficient, but to be able to get a 9,000 pound vehicle to go 500 miles with just 229 kilowatt hours, I know, that's actually kind of impressive, because again, it's the same efficiency of a Lightning or a Rivian. Even so, this is probably not going to be hitting city streets until end of next year, so we've got some time, and Ram did not disclose any pricing, but to me, the kilowatt hours says it all. If you got a big battery pack, it's going to cost you big bucks, and if it's a big battery pack with small bucks, like the Lightning was when it first got unveiled, wow, $40,000 for an all-electric F-150, yeah, that means that the manufacturer is losing tons of money on it, which now Ford has confirmed. They're losing an average of like $20,000 on every EV sold. So if the 500-mile range version starts anywhere below $100,000, I think they are easily losing $20,000, $30,000 a pop, which I guess if you want a good deal as a customer, that's going to be a good one, but you're just going to have to get lucky with a dealer not trying to gouge you and hopefully find them in your area, because again, I don't think they're going to be able to build very many of these things very quickly, and that essentially turns it into an off-the-record bidding war. Like, whoever pays the most for it is the guy that actually gets the limited availability. So anyway, even though I've tried to convince people that maybe you don't need a pickup truck as much as you think, or that aerodynamics should be prioritized more in a vehicle, I'm willing to admit that there are use cases where you're towing lots of oddly shaped trailers to haul junk or to haul produce or mulch or gravel and that kind of thing. If you're in an unaerodynamic market and you need good range, this is basically gonna be the truck for you, and it will drain your bank account. Let me know what you guys think of the Ram EV specs down in the comments below, and thank you to everybody supporting this channel directly. Seriously, helps us out a ton, as does just watching these videos, so thanks again. Have an excellent rest of your day.